To another lesson of the Logos and Letters. My name is Liam, and we've got a more practical lesson than the last lesson. In the last lesson, it was very theoretical, wasn't it? How it was just sort of establishing groundwork and distinguishing and clarifying, of course, was a great deal of work there. But now we get to think of more practical things. So, Kaepiton Hakasta, the Delon to Toyulton. Okay, so here he's going to speak about this rule. Okay, so if my explanation wasn't up to scratch, didn't make par for you in the last lesson, this should. Okay, it's from the philosopher himself, and they're really great examples. So, hoyon tode ti ioide aphorismenos hoti esti deplacion kai hotu deplacion estin youthus aphorismenos oiden. So if someone knows precisely that something is a double, then they know immediately what it's a double of. All right, immediately, youthus, right? Youthus, immediately they know what it's a double of. Okay, so in that sense, actually, I don't even need to explain that, do I? If you know what a double, you know what it's double of. I'm just going to leave that. I think you guys can generate heaps of examples yourself for that. Aphorismenos oiden. So precisely, he will know, all right, what that is. Igarmen medenos ton aphorismenon oiden auto deplacion udai deplacion estin holos oiden. Right, so again, if you're wondering why it's got a double acute accent there, the oxytone and peroxytone, it's because estin doesn't have one, and really going a whole word without a accent is a no-no in Greek, in Attic Greek, Koine Greek too, Homeric, of course, all the Greeks right up to modern Greek, really. Holos oiden. All right, so if you don't know something is a double, on a whole, you're not going to know what it's a double of. All right, so he's showing the inverse. He did this in the last lesson, and he's doing this in this lesson. Right, he's showing that it goes both ways. This rule is sort of inverse in a way. So let's continue on. I again don't need to provide examples of if someone doesn't know that that's a double or something, then they don't know what it's a double of. All right, because we've all been there. We've all been there as kindergarten students or elementary students learning numbers. We don't know what it's a double of. Right? If you tell us the number 150, we don't know it's a double of 75 when we're 5 years old. But over time we do. So let's just continue on. Hosaotos te kai tode ti ioiden hoti kalionesti kai hotu kalionestin youthus aphorismenos anakaion aidenai dia tauta. It is necessary to know on account of that. What is it necessary to know on account of that? If someone says, that's more beautiful, it's necessary to know what it's more beautiful than. It's necessary to know what it's more beautiful than. Okay, so this guy's painting something. You go, what are you painting? And he goes, this particular site is more beautiful. And you go, more beautiful than what? And then he will tell you what it's more beautiful than. And he might say, the site that I went to yesterday. Or this garden is more beautiful. And you go, more beautiful than what? The garden, my own garden. Okay, so when we say something is more beautiful or more anything, okay, let's expand that logic. More anything. All right. In logic, we should definitely know what it's more than. All right, so if you know that he is stronger than who? All right, tell us. If you know that is taller than what? Tell us, okay? And usually, if not always, it's homogenon, right? It's in the same genera, in the same genus, okay? You're comparing the two things, or same species even, all right? You're saying that this man is taller than that man. It's not really a conversation starter to say that the skyscraper is taller than the man. It's just a given. Okay, so just some food for thought. Let's continue on with what he says, however. So, more beautiful, kalion. All right. So you know that it's more, what it is more beautiful than, okay? And it's immediately. You definitely know it immediately, okay? Uk, aristos te isetai hoti tuto esti kaironos malion. Right? So, sorry. If you don't know what it is more beautiful than, if you don't know what it's more beautiful than, then it's just more it's opinion, okay? It's just, it's just opinion. So you need to know what it's worse off than, kaironos, what it's lesser than, what's lesser than it, because hypolepsis, right? Here it is, assumption. Hypolepsis gar to ginetai episteme. It's not knowledge if you don't know precisely, aphorismenos, definitely, what it is more beautiful than, or what it's stronger than, or what it's taller than. All right? There's a difference here, and he's brought this up a few times. He's bringing it up again, right? You can tell it's on his mind. It's something he's very deeply concerned about. Episteme and things like hypolepsis. This comes from the verb of lambenai, all right, to take, or hypolambenai, to take up, to assume, or sometimes even to presume. Hypolepsis is your assumption, or your belief, or your opinion. It's not your knowledge, your science, your scientific knowledge, where you can prove it by this or that premise, or that or this piece of evidence, okay? It's just a hypolepsis. So you got to know what's lesser and greater in the pair. Why? Because that's relatives. Lesser and greater are relatives, okay? If he's saying that this garden is more beautiful than his garden, that's science, okay? He's got this proof he can show you. Now, of course, it can be debated whether that's actually the case, because people's tastes come into play. And as one of the Romans said, I forget which Roman, maybe Juvenal, he said, de gustibus non est disputandum. Concerning taste, there ought not to be dispute. So I get that, that's a human thing, but maybe he's right. Maybe his garden is just awful. It's just covered by weeds and dying and rotten and things. So he knows what it's more beautiful than. He's got episteme, all right, and his garden is episteton, a knowable thing. But if he just comes, let's get another one. If she's walking and she goes, oh, this place is more beautiful. Okay, fair enough. And then we go, oh, what's it more beautiful than? She shrugs her shoulders and she goes, I don't know. She's just that she doesn't know the kaironos, what's lesser. All right. So it's actually just hypolepsis. It's an assumption of hers. Now it's a pretty good assumption. I mean, it's gonna be hard to beat this place, but it's a bit arrogant on her part too. So it is an assumption. It's not episteme. Ugar eti akribos aisetai hoti esti kaironos kalion. Right. So keenly or acutely. He, she, it will know in the middle, future indicative, active middle form, which is a lot, I know, but so you're not going to know keenly what's lesser and more, you're not going to keenly know what's less beautiful than this place or more beautiful than this place without the episteme, the actual knowledge. You need to indicate, okay? You can say this place is more beautiful than the steel mill or the coal mines or the desert, okay? So you can say these things and that can be episteme. What's another one? You can say he is more virtuous, okay? And then you can say he's more virtuous than me. And then that's episteme. But if a Samaritan came by and saw him sitting there, he might say, he is more virtuous. And then another Samaritan goes, oh, more virtuous than who? And the first Samaritan just shrugs his shoulders. Hypolipsis, right? That's an assumption, right? Hoti esti kaironos kalion. Igar hutos etuken. You know what? We'll end it there. It's been a nice, clean lesson, hasn't it? So, if the last lesson was a bit jumbled, not jumbled, but like just so theoretical, you know, I want to apologize, but also I can't. You know, I'm just reading what's there. Some lessons are going to be absolute rocket fuel for some, and some are, you know, it's not going to be their cup of tea, and I get that, and I'm always conscious of that. So if you ever hit one of these lessons, like I did personally, I would come across a lesson or two now and then, or a point or two now and then, where my eyes would get sleepier or my eyelids heavier, and sometimes I would come across a sentence or two, or most of the time, to be honest, that was quite stimulating and got my mind racing. You know, that's just the nature of the game, okay? And we're going to keep going through. We're getting closer and closer to formal argument and syllogisms and rhetoric and poetics and politics and ethics, you know, so we just keep going along. For if you should add a pile upon a pile, soon you will get a mountain. And that's the motto of this endeavor. So, as always, si semper fortis in opere tuo. My name is Liam, and I'll see you next time.